This week, one story dominated the news: Attica. Another shred of the nation's soul was bare to itself and to the world. And many Americans learned that the revolution that is going on in the cities and on the campuses is also happening inside the prisons. Attica is no exception, simply a horrible example. We found that out when this week we visited another prison, Colorado State, to try to find out what other prisoners, other guards, and other wardens were thinking while Attica buried its dead.
40,600. The oppressor understands nothing but power, and the only way you can get him to listen to anything is through power. Right on for what the Bloods did in Attica, because the same thing that come down in Attica is inedible, whether it be behind these walls, because America itself is a great big penitentiary. And as far as getting ourselves killed, as Brother Lightbulb stated, we are dead, man. We living, walking dead. We just haven't started to stink yet. That's all.
All of these men are convicted criminals, some of them murderers, most of them guilty of crimes of violence. It is the Black Awareness Group at Colorado State Prison, meeting under the auspices of the prison administration, the very pig power structure, as they call it, that they are bent on destroying. And penologists this week are pondering, does this kind of gathering prevent further Atticas, or is it this kind of permissiveness that creates them?
The men who live behind these walls are murderers and dope pushers, bad check artists and rapists. Society puts them here and calls it punishment and rehabilitation. One of the dictionary definitions of rehabilitation is to restore something or someone to its former state. So very often, an exercise in punishment becomes an exercise in futility.
Many of the men at that meeting, like so many black and brown prisoners in America today, got their primary education on the urban streets and their secondary education in prison.
And lately, that secondary education consists of courses in revolutionary politics and polemics. So men whose ambition, barely literate men, whose ambition only a few months ago was to rob a candy store or a gas station, become the new apostles of black revolution. A prison sentence gives them their first chance at reflection, time to think, to read, time to debate, a chance to articulate their own frustration.
People take the word revolution and play with it. Revolution, my dear friends and brothers, you can't play with it. You don't have no compromise whatsoever. Boy, if you're going to get down, you're going to get down. If you don't, if you say, well, man, I ain't got nothing to do with it, Jack. But when it break out, and if you're black, if you're brown, and if you're poor, you got to get it. Because, boy, you're in it. You in it, Jack, you in it. And to all the brothers, man, that died up there, see, I firmly believe that they died in something that they believe in. They might not get their amnesty, and they might not get rid of the pig. But personally, my personal feeling, they'll get rid of the pig, because they don't want nothing like this to happen no more, even though they'll take a few lives.
Genocide, man, is practiced on us. It's been practiced for centuries. It's just in various little sections and various little ways. We know that pigs gonna be pigs. We know that we'll probably die anyway. But if we must die, man, let us die fighting for something we believe in.
I was curious, as we sat there last night, you were there.
Right.
We were talking about the pigs.
Right.
Meeting you.
Right.
How did you feel while they were talking that way?
It didn't bother me too much last night. When they were talking about pigs, they were talking, I'd say, more against authority than anything else. If you had a badge, why use a pig? Which represented the police force on the outside. Everything as a whole, anything that represented authority, I think they were calling pigs.
I got the impression watching a meeting last night that from a number of the men, that among the black inmates here, that people who weren't political when they came in become political, become militants inside prison. Is that so?
If a man comes in here and he doesn't particularly have any strong political feelings, there's a pressure from the organized groups in here sometimes, I think, to either get in or get out. You're either with us or you're against us. This type of philosophy. I don't think it's healthy, but I do think it exists.
Among older, experienced convicts, Colorado has a reputation of being a lenient prison. Not like those places back east, one convict told me. Not as bad as Arkansas or Mississippi, another black convict said. The administration regards itself as enlightened. A lot of petty strictures have been removed. The men can shower as often as they please. The food, from personal experience, is much the same as food in most military establishments. Sports are encouraged in the belief that they dissipate other forms of violence. The prisoners are allowed access to the outside, receive as many newspapers as they want, and run their own radio station.
And this is the news from KCSP. The Monroe County Medical Examiner said yesterday that all 9 hostages killed at Attica State Prison during the 4-day uprising died of gunshot wounds. Dr. John F. Edlin said there were no cutthroats or any kind of mutilation.
The sacrifice that is being made by these guys getting killed is that we're defeating our own purpose. Because when you get up into the system's face, and if you get too bad, they're going to kill you. They've been killing them all my life, and they're going to continue to kill them. And the system will be able to feed and perpetuate itself on another younger generation until they have frustrated them and made them as bitter as we are and ready to rebel, you dig? So when you put yourself into a position where the system can destroy you, you're just giving it fresher blood to live on.
But the warden we have here, he's a pacifier, he's a thinker, he's a schemer, he's a shrewd man. You can't take that from him. He gives the inmates here little pacification such as these groups that we have to try to handle our own affairs where we can keep down the tension arising against administration.
The men last night were talking about violence, revolution, repeating an Attica here. Very strong stuff. Was that simply rhetoric, or do you think they mean it?
Not necessarily. We believe in letting people have their say, as you probably have.
Wayne Patterson is the warden of Colorado State Prison. He is not regarded by the 1,400 inmates there as brutal. They say he is a cunning fellow who keeps things calm by allowing the men to openly vent their feelings.
Some people operating institutions don't like to hear what is said. I like to hear what's said. I like to, if that's on your mind, say it, and I'll have an understanding of you, and you'll have a better understanding of me.
Is that the way you keep the lid on here, by letting them say it?
Well, possibly. That possibly makes a contribution. The lid always doesn't stay on, so we can only speak in the present tense, you know, but I think venting your feelings, venting your hostilities verbally helps, but some people mean it.
Where do we go from here, after Attica? Will there be a new attitude towards prisons and prisoners now?
I think the fallout, the public reaction and that type of thing will really set the cause of prison change and prison reform back, in my judgment, because people are inclined to take a hard line in upheavals, after upheavals of that kind. And they've introduced really a new element that we haven't, as wardens and superintendents of institutions, have never had to deal with before. Prisons, by definition and by custom, by law, and by public expectation, are the last place of public protection. When all other things fail, when your family fails, the school fails, the police and the courts have only one place, and you put a man in prison. Now, public protection then means that whatever measures are necessary, he will have to be restrained and segregated from the public. But crime and the development of criminals comes from the society, and it's not going to be resolved in prisons. It's going to have to go back to the same place to be resolved. We have a different type of prisoner, for example, than when I went into the work. We have a prisoner basically under 25 years old, activist. We have a prisoner coming in who is much more violence-prone than any. He has a different outlook. Life isn't quite so important if you have some sort of a cause to lose it for, you know. He is probably used drugs, probably very little educated. The crime more relates to person than to property anymore. So not only at Attica but any place else, all of us are in a fast-moving type of work that we're going to have a lot of difficulty in trying to keep up with, no question about it.
Punishment is probably the only method that America is going to accept. Right now, we have many treatment programs that the warden have in his head that are never going to come about during his era. See, they will stifle and suppress him to the point where he'll give up.
The bureaucracy will.
Right, you see. And this is what America wants.
They spend, what, $1 billion a year for junk holes like this here. And then you don't see any improvement. You know, like he's speaking about one psychologist for 1,400, people. They put you away, you know what I'm saying? Say, well, forget him. He's an animal, It's just like cancer. Nobody really become concerned about cancer until it hits their family.
I came here when I was 17 years old. And with hardly an education under me. And at that time, there wasn't any school here. Nobody taught me anything. So my teachers were the older cons. So I learned how to crack safes. I learned all about stick-ups, write checks, extortion games. I learned all there was to know about crime in here at the age of 17. There was nothing for me in here. They didn't teach me nothing.
How do you feel about the charges made outside by many black people outside of prison, that black prisoners inside the prisons of the United States are in fact political prisoners? Do you believe that?
Yeah, I believe it. Because you have, the judicial system is, like, put it this way, the blacks and Chicanos, we commit a crime, supposedly to be a crime against society. But why the reason for the crime? Some of us are starving, in a country that got everything, but they're starving.
There are a great many injustices towards black society. I think, generally speaking, that most of them are blaming society for their own shortcomings. They all, first of all, commit a crime, and they know that's wrong, and then they're being punished for it. But instead of just being punished for the crime, they think that they're being punished for being black. Maybe they're being punished a little more severely for being black. But nevertheless,
You think that is common to most American prisons?
I think that across the board, black prisoner will carry a heavier sentence than the white prisoner. I've seen enough paperwork now to draw my own conclusions on that.
A lot of people are saying that as a result of what happened at Attica, that prisons are going to get tougher. Do you think so?
Some people are going to be very, very bitter because 9 guards died. They're not going to think in terms of the convict. If this is the ruling class, then nothing is going to change until it happened in every prison in the nation, you see.
If there was a spark here, like Attica, would you support a prison revolt?
You don't really have any choice. If there was a spark, you don't have any choice. Now, the whole inmate body here readily recognized that any type of riot, be it racial or what have you, against the administration or against one another, a lot of innocent people that want only to try and grow into themselves are going to get hurt. If anything happened here against black individuals as a group, whether I want to be involved or not is irrelevant. I'm already involved because I'm black.
We're convicts, man. You know, like we're in this thing together. And we have to step towards making those changes together. I personally don't want to become involved in anything like this because I've been through too much of this, see?
How many years you spent in prison?
Well, out of about 28 years in and out. See? I'm tired of it, you know, and I see ills and wrongs on both sides. But if something was to come down, my God, I have a lot of friends here, you know. I can't afford to see them hurt. I can't afford to not to help them, you know. It puts me in a spot.
You don't really have any choice. You don't really have any choice, you see.
If something was to happen, it'd be very hard for me to stay out of it.
If Attica happened at Canyon City, would you stand there with a knife at a guard's throat?
I think I would. Even though I'm a very afraid young man, I got a lot of fear. But I think I would.